Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by PSE&G, TD Charitable Foundation, Prudential Foundation, Roche, the Newark Public Schools, Terrell Fund, New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities, the MCJ Amelia Foundation, and by the Merck Company Foundation.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to a very special half hour of programming here on public television. You know, back in 1999, we started a program off the air. It's not really about television. It's about young people in inner cities, starting in the city of Newark. The program is called Stand and Deliver. It's a program dedicated to teaching leadership and communication, really life skills, to young people. Why do we do it? Because we're in the communications business, and we felt that it was important to teach those skills to young people who often don't get that kind of attention, that kind of focus. And so we started a program called Stand and Deliver. And you're about to see throughout this half hour some of those young people standing and delivering after a lot of practice and coaching and mentoring. And we're about to introduce you to two people who are key players, key leaders in that program. The first person I'm going to introduce you to is Toni Richardson, who is a project director, the project director with Stand and Deliver, and the chairperson of the Newark Public Schools Advisory Board. Good to have you with us, Toni.
Thank you. Good to be
And
here.
you are joined by your colleague, Mary Gamba, the Director of Development at Stand and Deliver. She is really, I like to call her the CEO of the Stand and Deliver program, who does not get the CEO salary of the Stand and Deliver program.
That is
You like
correct.
that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And you do not get the salary of the CEO. Let's just talk about this. Started in 1999, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Idea behind it, accurate description, trying to teach leadership, life skills, communication skills to inner city youth, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The idea behind it is really just to help young adults, particularly in inner cities, with their leadership, communication, and overall life skills, whether they're going into the workforce, whether they're going into college. The key is just to give them that confidence in public speaking, eye contact, everything that really goes hand in hand with being successful in their adulthood.
And Toni, being an educator, being an administrator, being a leader in the Newark Public Schools, now having a policy position with the advisory board, these kids matter to you a lot, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Talk about them.
Absolutely. Well, the reason that I have actually continued my relationship with the Newark Public Schools, although in a different way, is because I'm really concerned and about the future of Newark's children, and working with Stand and Deliver actually helps me as much as I hope that I help the students, because it allows me to continue, even though I'm not a teacher in the classroom, to really continue to be able to give and to help facilitate learning and growth in Newark students. So that's what it does for me, and as much for the students. You know, I've seen the program develop over the years.
14 years.
Yes, absolutely. From a program that I would say initially focused on the speaking
Public
skills.
speaking was our first thing.
Yes, yes.
We started with public speaking. We said, look, being able to speak in front of other people was key, but then it expanded, right?
Absolutely. And now, in addition to still focusing on the mechanics of speech, on the delivery of speech, and all of those really fundamental things, we see students whose self-esteem and self-confidence grows. There's team building. Each group actually does a service project each year that they develop themselves. The wonderful thing about this program is that everyone knows that this is your baby. This is Steve Adubato Jr.'s baby here, but it's not top down, even with the way that the—
No, it's actually the other way.
Yes, it is.
In fact, let me just jump in there. You're about to start seeing some clips from something we call the Night of Eloquence. Let me set this up. What Toni means is it's the other way around.
Yes.
It may be in my name, but the fact is we have great mentors, Stand and Deliver leaders, mentors, teachers who run these weekly workshops that we'll talk about in a minute. but they coach and mentor these young people for something called the Night of Eloquence that took place, I think it was on May 13th?
May 8th.
May 8th, I'm sorry, on 2013. We have 700 young people participating in the program. 700 young people, Newark and urban areas all across the state. They compete, and only 10 to 15 of them actually get to compete in the Night of Eloquence, right?
Exactly, yes.
And they're the best of the best, the ones who work the hardest. And what happens in that night is we're about to see a piece starting with a young woman by the name of Marlisa. What happens in that night?
That night, it's just a wonderful culmination of the program. After the students have gone through 12 weeks of workshop seminars, they all have the opportunity to compete in the All-Stars event, which is really a competition, and they all come prepared with original pieces, and some are not original, but they come prepared to give a presentation. Those that are selected then present at the Night of Eloquence, which is held every year at Nanina's in the Park. Give them a little bit of a plug. And they're extremely generous to us, and they present in front of their peers, an audience of community members, and perform brief pieces, and that's what we're about to see here.
It is from May 8th, 2013, 14th annual Night of Eloquence, Stand and Deliver. This is a young woman by the name of Marlisa Shaw. She does a piece called Still I Rise. Not from her, but from the great Maya Angelou. This is Marlisa Shaw. She stands and she delivers. Let's take a look.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trot me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I got oil wells plumbing in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't take it awfully hard, 'cause I laugh like I got golden mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear into the tides. Leaving behind the night's terror and fear, I rise. Into the daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the hope and the dream of the slave. I rise. I rise. I rise.
Toni, let me ask you, when you listen to Marlisa, and you know how hard she worked to get to this night, what's it feel like to see her right now?
I think that she's, was an amazing interpretation. Maya Angelou's poems, you know, folks have heard them over and over at various times, but what I love is her interpretation, and this is what happens in Stand and Deliver, that the students, there is a very strong writing component, but even when they're using literature that is published, that is written literature, that the creativity of each child flows when they interpret. And they don't just interpret. It's discussed in the workshops. Mm-hmm. They preview it for their classmates in the workshop. They may preview it for a small audience at the school or the program.
And get feedback.
Absolutely.
And criticism.
That is.
Why is that important?
Well, that's an essential part of the program, and it actually helps the students to in one sense, develop thick skins, but also to be ready to go into the world, into college, into the work world, where you have to be able to accept criticism and then turn it around and do something positive with it. And that is what we see. And what I really love is the kind of a hip-hop adaptation of a piece of classical African-American literature.
And a lot of confidence. One of the areas of the curriculum, real quick, before we listen to Ronald Gardine, who is a 12th grader, his piece is called Dear Love, I'm Still Here. Toni just talked about this issue of confidence. And as we're looking at Marlisa, I was thinking, these young people, Mary, don't come in this confident.
That's exactly right. She is in 11th grade, and to just think that she could have gone from the beginning of the program, as many of the students do, and aren't even able to stand up, make eye contact, and put a sentence together in a way that is clear, concise, to the point, and to watch them at the end of the program not only be able to do that, but do it in front of an audience is really exciting.
They don't look like that at the beginning. The Stand and Deliver curriculum, this isn't the entire 12-week curriculum. In addition to the 12 weeks, we have 3 symposia, right?
Yes.
Which deals with, Mary, what subjects of the symposia? Financial literacy?
Conflict resolution, and then we have the All-Stars, which is the challenge projects and the competition for the Night of Eloquence.
The standard 12-week curriculum for Stand and Deliver is public speaking, conflict resolution, team building, and of course, throughout the entire Stand and Deliver curriculum, confidence building. Speaking of confidence building, we're going to go to a young man by the name of Ronald Gardine. It's a 2-minute presentation, an original piece, unlike Marlisa, who in fact interpreted Maya Angelou. This is Ronald Gardine, 12th grader, an original composition, powerful stuff. It is called Dear Love, I'm Still Here. Let's take a look.
Someone once told me that the grass was much greener on the other side, but no one dared tell me that the maintenance level was high. Love? How dare you mention that word to me? That word I associate with so much hate, yet you use it so carelessly, so arrogantly, so nonchalantly. I love this, I love that, I love him, I love her, I love you? What does that word even mean to you? Love. Do you love me like the heartless father who claimed he loved his family enough to rip their limbs piece by piece? Or how about the mother who drove her newborn babies into a river? Matter of fact, now that I think about it, do you love me like Harpo loved Celie, or how Ike loved Tina, or Bobby loved Whitney? Do you love me like Judas loved Jesus? See, I loved once. Someone once claimed their love to me, yet still managed to hurt me so bad. There I was, the butt in all their jokes. And when I tried to demand an answer, what did I get? Nothing. But here's the message for you. See, dear friend, old friend, good friend, love, I thank you. Because at the end of the day, I've learned a few things. See, my mama taught me how to love, and my daddy taught me how to love someone to the likes of love, but you were neither. See, love is compassionate, love is kind, and love is there for me always, but where were you? So dear friend, old friend, good friend, love, I thank you, but see, here's another thing I've learned. I mean, how can I expect you to love me if I can barely love myself? So dear friend, old friend, good friend, love, I thank you. But if you love me enough to leave me the heck alone, because I'm through with you. Because at the end of the day, you will still be that careless, arrogant, nonchalant beast of the deep that I fell in love with, but you are defeated. At the end of the day, I'm still here. Yes, I survived, and I'm still here.
When I first heard that piece, it's so heavy. I had to just really stop and reflect and just try to figure out exactly what he meant. And I had to actually listen to it again. But I think that it is the beauty of the honesty that youth bring without the hesitations that we have as adults, without the fear of judgment. Filter. Yes. And but done in such a craftful way, and that was completely original writing.
You know what was cut off on the end of that? There's about 350 people in the audience. We cut off the applause at the end. You remember the reaction?
Absolutely. If I recall correctly, he got a standing ovation for that performance, as many of the students did that evening. And it just shows the power of the voice and the connection that these young adults have with the audience. It's extremely powerful.
And we're about to see from some of the young people talk about what they feel the program has done for them. But Mary, what do you think it does for a young man like Ronald who gets up and does that and gets that reaction?
I just truly believe that it gives them the confidence to move forward and to say, I can do it, I can be something in the world, I am going to show the world my voice, my spirit, my energy, and it just gives them that really a solid foundation to move forward, whether it's in college or the workforce.
Jesse Jackson started saying in 1980s, I am, right? I am somebody, right?
Exactly.
These young people were too young to even remember him saying that, but they really are some
Steve,
special people.
So many students write. If you talk to a teenager, they have a poetry notebook in their bag. But what Stand and Deliver does is give them the opportunity to pull that poetry out of the bag and to work on it and to present it publicly.
In that spirit, let's take a look at what some of the young people, in fact, who are participants. There's 700 of them. Here's just a few of them and what they have to say about what the Stand and Deliver program has done for them.
Stand and Deliver is pretty much a program that teaches kids to work together and perform an idea or problem that goes around in the world that many people may not notice because they don't pay attention to the little things, and we're just bringing it out to them.
Throughout the whole life, you work with people. So this gave you an opportunity to work with people and to collaborate, and like public speaking was actually my weakness, but now I feel more confident.
Well, this has benefited me in the way that I can communicate better with my peers. I'm able to listen more intensely, and it's made me better as a public speaker because I'm not as shy. I can open up and explain myself better.
And I thank Stand and Deliver for teaching us how to express our opinions and speak clearly and slow down. We need to slow down and enunciate, and it really helped us a lot. And I'm really want to take away and trying to teach others.
You need to understand something, folks. The young people that you're just looking at, some of them are at the time doing the 7th grade going into 8th grade. Put that in perspective. Before we go back and talk to Toni and to Mary, real quick, you're about to listen to 3 people, all of whom have won every year at the Night of Eloquence we bestow the Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership Award. This year it was won by TD Charitable Foundation and also Bishop Reginald Jackson, who is an extraordinary leader across this country, Black Ministers group, and he is just an incredible leader. And also Micheline Davis with Barnabas Health, former Commissioner of Health and a leader in the state of New Jersey, won the year before. You're about to listen to Micheline Davis, Nick Maselli from TD, and also Bishop Jackson. They were there that night of the Night of Eloquence. They care about these kids. Let's listen to what they have to say. What did you hear and see and feel tonight as you listened to the young people?
I have told you this before, Stephen. I come back to this in order to be encouraged, right? I come here selfishly. So I will tell you, I come here to be inspired and motivated, to be encouraged, and to be reminded of why it is that we try every day, right? Why we push ourselves to get up in the morning and get back to work. And it's because every time we pick up a pen or put down a pencil, we have the opportunity to change a young life through a program like Stand and Deliver. What you do through this program with these children who are my children, right, is just absolutely incredible. What we saw here tonight were really the future leaders of this world, right? So I saw tonight ambassadors to Brazil and England and Japan, right? I saw tonight the next president of the United States, the next First Lady. I saw tonight the leaders and CEOs of the business world. So I'm more than encouraged. I'm thrilled.
What do I say after listening to those young men and women get up and speak? It really, it humbles us all, I think, doesn't it? I'm very confident that all of those here today, with the skills that they now have, will not only be better leaders, but they will be great leaders. Thank you very much for this award.
As I listened to you tonight, it occurred to me the genius of Dr. King. A good communicator enables people to imagine. And as much as we talk about Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, the reason it is remembered so well and is still so moving is because it gives us something to imagine. And so I hope that through the Stand and Deliver program, young people in Newark and across the county and the state will be able to communicate so well that we will be able to imagine a city, a county, a state that is better than it is.
Bishop Jackson has it right, Toni. It isn't just that Dr. King was an extraordinary and eloquent and powerful speaker, it's that he led change. In that spirit, let's transition to talk about these challenge projects. We don't just teach young people to be great speakers, we teach them to be leaders. The challenge project was about coming up with solutions. Be the change for you. Be the change for you is the theme. What does that mean in these challenge projects?
Well, the challenge project actually, I think, originated at a time, maybe 5, 6 years ago, where there were...
we lost some of our kids, but
yes.
let's be clear, we lost some of the young people in the Stand and Deliver program to violence, to murder, to mayhem on the streets of the city. We lost to gang violence. Real violence.
So we decided that it wasn't enough just to teach students individually to speak well, but we wanted to turn the tide and to help the students to address the issues that were going on in their schools and in their communities. So each group, be it at a school, at a recreational center, wherever they are, each group chooses a project, and they actually develop their project plan. They have to write a white paper about their project. Then they have to implement their project. And the projects that are most impressive to me are those where the students seem to actually look out the window, look out the door, observe on their way to and from school, and see something in the neighborhood that they believe that they as a group can have some impact on changing. And they actually address those things, and they go out into the community or even at their school or their workshop site, and they do something. They make a change.
Real quick, sorry for interrupting. Some of the areas where they actually made change, Mary.
One of the most powerful ones for me was at St. Vincent's Academy. There was a young woman who had a fire at her home, and they decided to come together as a group and do a fundraiser. And that was just one very powerful one. Others are beautification in their cities. There was a brick wall out of one of the classroom windows, and the students decided to address that brick wall that they didn't want to look at anymore for the next 3 years while they were at that school. So they came up with a proposal that they presented, and then in turn actually went out and were able to beautify their neighborhood.
And Toni, in that spirit, let's let folks know, how do we know that it's working? Look, there are so many young people in the program. Let's talk about some of the young people that we know are succeeding as they lead the program. 14 years we've been doing this. Some of them come back as?
Absolutely. They come back and they're trained and they work as workshop leaders. So they bring their experience in the program, the experience that they're gaining or have gained in college, their life experience, and they come back. And we have more students, graduates who want to work in the program than we even have space for. That is how, that's how much they love it, that they want to come back, they want to work in the program. And I think another sign of success for Stand and Deliver is the students who actually go on to college. Our students graduate and go to college.
And then ultimately they are better prepared for interviews for jobs and the challenges they face in life. Real quick, can we show the clip? This is a bonus clip. I just want to do this. We have 1 minute from Veronica Blair, who's going into the 8th grade. Is that the one we want to do? Veronica Blair from the Robert Treat Academy. It's called Something About Me, an original composition. Can we just go to it? It's powerful.
My life is something I can never change, no matter how hard I try. My pain and suffering is something you will never understand. So please, don't feel bad for me. Help me. See, my mother is long gone. She is never coming back. So why should I be happy? Yelling and screaming, down on my knees, but still, no sight of her. Is there a place I can go to escape this all? But wait. Where is someone like me to go? It's people like you that make me feel as though I don't belong. I'm looking for answers during this confusing time, and here you come, adding 5 more grains to my sack. Isn't my life already complicated? I don't need this. I feel so lost. But question is, will I ever be found?
On so many levels, this speech was depressing and sad, and no one knew what to do when she finished.
Mm-hmm.
Fair assessment?
Absolutely, and it was, the audience was almost quiet, so it was the opposite of the standing ovation until they realized really what she was talking about and they felt so connected, and then it was just the audio decibels, it was so loud, everyone was cheering for her, and she felt their attachment to her as well.
This is a young woman who may be 13 years old.
Yes.
Yes.
She needs other people to help.
She does. She asks for that support, and she certainly, will get it and is getting it. But this is one child who I think represented so many others. And what she did, I think, was to show them that it's okay. It's okay to ask for help.
It's also okay that we have Toni and Mary running this program, and I cannot thank you both enough. You are terrific leaders and role models, and we are proud to have you representing us. Thank you. And the last clip we're going to go to, it's going to end the program, is from Ashanti Burnett, 12th grader from Garrett Morgan Academy. An original composition. It is called Success. And this Stand and Deliver program, while it has a long way to go, we feel has been a success. And thank you for watching. This is Ashanti Burnett.
What is success? What is success? Because many people don't know. Is it being able to afford millions of clothes? Is it being able to buy things you don't need? Or is success just being known by everyone that you see? See, we use this word every day, but when asked what success is, many just don't know what to say. What people find out when they're old and gray, lying in their deathbeds, withering away. Success is known once you ask yourself this: did you live your life, or did you just exist? I said success is known once you ask yourself this: did you live your life, or did you just exist? Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by PSE&G, TD Charitable Foundation, Prudential Foundation, Roche, the Newark Public Schools, Terrell Fund, New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities, the MCJ Amelia Foundation, and by the Merck Company Foundation. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.